Under the Skin is kind of a masterpiece. It's not a movie made for everyone, but it's certainly made for me. It's kind of upset me how few people know about this movie. And those who have seen it either really hate it because they don't understand it, or really love it because they don't understand it. The first time I saw the movie, I was a little confused, even though for the most part, I understood the point of it. It's a movie that is made to be viewed multiple times. You won't be able to get everything from one viewing. So for those of you who've just seen it, this video may answer some questions you have. And you know what? For once, I would like to praise a good movie instead of criticizing a bad one. I don't want this channel to be all negative, like I hate everything. Another thing to mention when I answer all these questions is that I will not be taking any answers from the book. One, because I haven't read it, and two, because this movie veers far away from the book. It almost has nothing to do with it. Using the book to answer all the movie's questions is something that a lot of people do, but sometimes the author of the book and the filmmaker have completely different intentions. People use the book 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke to answer all the questions they had during 2001: A Space Odyssey the movie, even though the book and the movie were written about the exact same time, and the movie pretty much has nothing to do with the book. And there are a whole lot of other examples of movies that veer away from the book. So I'm not going to use the book at all to answer any questions we have. Most of the questions we have are pretty much answered in the movie itself. And the questions that aren't answered aren't meant to be answered, because the filmmaker does not want them to be answered. The movie opens with a bright light, and then an eye is formed. Right off the bat, everyone watching the movie is going, what the hell is happening? But this is an important part of the film. Based on what I've seen and based on the music playing over this scene, I assume that this is just her body being created. Her human disguise is being formed, even though we don't see all of it being created. The only part we see created is the eye. That is because the eye plays a major role in the film. What do you see in her eyes? Nothing. It's an important part of her character. This shows that she doesn't have any soul. We don't need to be told this. We see it. We're shown it in a creative way. Then you hear a bunch of random gibberish in the background. What I take away from this is that she's trying to learn the language, or she's getting used to her human lips or something.
Feel, field, film, filmed, films, foil, failed.
Another way we can compare this to creation is just the first shot of the movie. It's like a white light. Any average film goer would just go, she's the random woman that he took out of the woods. But something that threw me off was the fact that she was alive. She's crying here. She isn't dead. She's comatose. And the whole thing just seems odd. Instead of this scene being all dark in the background, it's pure white. And she just takes the woman's clothes. It's just very odd, and it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. So what I took away from this is that this woman is another alien like Scarlett Johansson. Another alien disguised as a human who, much like Scarlett Johansson, began to grow sympathy for the human race. I think it's just a cycle. They have an alien, they give it a disguise, they use their disguise to lure in men, and then eventually they begin to grow sympathy for the human race and try to break away. And then at that point they are caught, brought back to base, then they send another alien down, and the whole thing just happens over and over and over and over again. I mean, the lady on the floor and Scarlett Johansson are very similar. The thing that stood out to me the most was the ant. We see another insect in the film when Scarlett Johansson finally decides to run away. We see her looking into the mirror, looking into her eyes, of course, and then she turns and sees a fly. Instead of the ant from before, the insect is a fly, and he's trying to escape. When it comes to the alien technology, or why the aliens are there in the first place, the movie doesn't explain much at all. I'm sure you could find these answers in the book, but I don't give a damn about the book at this point. What is this black room? Why does she lure in men? What do they use their meat for? Who cares? It doesn't matter. What makes it more interesting is that you don't know what's going on. It's what makes it scarier. We don't even know if this is literally going on. This could all be a metaphor for something. It could be a metaphor showing how blind they are to the world around them because they're so focused on Scarlett Johansson's beauty. Maybe it really looks like that, and this alien technology is so complicated that our human brains can't even perceive it. But I honestly don't know, and that's what makes it scary. I guess the whole movie is a comment on how animalistic men are, that they don't even care if they're in danger, as long as there's a half-naked woman in front of them. In the beginning of the movie, Scarlett Johansson has a job to do. She lures men into her alien ship, whatever, with her looks, and then the men are sucked into the floor and their meat is sucked out of them for some reason. Never explained. But it doesn't have to be, because it's not important to this story. In the beginning of the film, she sees humans as pieces of meat. So once again, it does not matter what they use the meat for, it just represents how she sees them. As pieces of meat. Arrogant, violent, needy pieces of meat that she can easily manipulate. They all want sex. But then as the film goes on, she starts to grow more sympathy for the human race. She starts to realize humans are much more complicated than she thought. In one scene, she gets a rose. She receives a token of human generosity. She also sees blood on the rose, showing how vulnerable humans are as well. She hears about the events at the beach on the news, and there has to be a meaning to it. She must have felt some mild amount of guilt at this point. Otherwise, they wouldn't even show this scene. Is this scene meant to show how unsympathetic she is? Because we already know that. Then in this one scene, she falls and is helped up by human beings.
So she's sort of slowly coming to. It's a key scene in the film because it's about a kind of demonstration of human kindness and how we help each other up when we fall, really. And in that scene, she's now, it's the beginning of her drift towards kind of human impulse. And she's sort of part of the throng now, or on her way to being part of the throng.
Then we start to see the world through her eyes. See, that eye thing is really important. We see all the people she examines every day. And instead of looking at them as prey, she starts to see them as something more. And she starts to want what people have. Emotions, companionship. She wants to feel love and happiness. She starts to grow curious.
If you feel anger or joy or something like that, it might be like a really intense feeling of that subsides very quickly. So for instance, in this middle montage bit, she sort of has this rush of having this feeling. She might not be able to decipher it. She doesn't know what it means yet, if it's attached to people, what it's attached to. She just sort of stores that up. And it was important to be simple and bold and clear with that. You're starting with like something that's a scientific, it's kind of hard to gauge, and then it becomes personalised and warmed with these crescendo-y chords. She becomes more human. The music is warmer. It may even seem over the top. It's incredibly emotional, and it just made sense not to go against that, just go with it.
And even though she does see all these things, she also sees the cruelty people are capable of. There's a rape attempt early on in the film, and there's also one at the end. But after that scene, she comes across this man, and she becomes very sympathetic.
Cold. I won't let that stop us. Come to me.
Her days of harvesting humans is over, and she goes to start a new life. She wants to become human. She has the perfect disguise already, so she can start a life as a normal person. She attempts to eat cake, something that people take great pleasure in. But she is not human, so... And she starts to realize she has no idea where she's going or what she's doing. She doesn't understand this world that she's in. She just doesn't understand happiness or joy. The movie tells us this through visuals. She also tries to make love, which is her last attempt at being human. As much as she tries, she just can't. Either due to her emotional limitations or maybe even her physical limitations. Maybe she just doesn't have a vagina. I don't know. That's the point where she realizes she can't be a human being. She can't be with another human being. She can't assimilate into human culture because she isn't human. She can't have our complicated emotions. She can't feel love. She can't laugh. She can't feel pleasure. The place for her in the world is the forest, alone, where no one is around, except a creepy rapist. She can't be human, and she doesn't understand being human. She sees the capacity in human beings to love and feel compassion, but she also sees the darkest sides of human beings, and she just doesn't understand it, and she dies knowing that she'll never understand it. This is her alien boss. He's meant to keep watch over her. At least that's what I think. It's kind of fitting how he's a man and she's a woman, because she sees human men as just pieces of meat. who don't feel sympathy. Meanwhile, her boss, which is also a man, has no emotions. He isn't exposed to humans every day, like Scarlett Johansson is. So he's only interested in his goal of obtaining human meat. That is it. And like I said before, when the aliens disguised as humans start to fuck around, he deals with it, gets rid of them, replaces them with someone else. As the film goes on, we start to see him be more suspicious. He thinks Scarlett Johansson's up to something. He keeps checking her eyes, the gateway into the soul. And when she does break away, he hunts her down. And while he's usually able to catch the alien, for once he's unable to track her down. And by the time she dies, he has no idea where she is. So while this movie does have a sad ending, in a way it's kind of good, because Scarlett Johansson breaks the cycle. She's dead, and he was never able to find her. I think the alien does have emotions, just very negative ones. We see throughout the entire movie that she has emotions. The only time she fakes her emotions is when she's feeling positive emotions, like happiness or love. But when she's confused or scared, those are genuine emotions. It's part of why she wants to be human. Because she's from a world where everything is negative. She's from a world where your creepy boss just stares at you, just to make sure that you aren't happy. A world where everything is dark and pale. A world where you're very lonely. When she starts to see human interaction and love, the reason she wants to be a part of that is because she was never exposed to it, ever. She comes from a race of aliens that aren't able to feel these emotions. Another thing I would like to say is I have a hard time understanding these people. I am not very good with accents, and for the most part, I had no idea what the fuck these people were saying.
So where are you coming from?
Govan, good right there.
Sorry?
Govan.
But I think this makes the film more effective. While I doubt this was intentional, the fact that she's in a world foreign to Americans makes me feel what she is feeling. She's in a different world that she does not understand. While she's able to understand the gist of what people are saying, she doesn't understand every word.
See how long that way, and this has got to be pure hard to explain. Do you know what Asda is?
No.
I don't even know what to point at the words. See if you just drive straight along up there,
Yes.
right, and see the traffic lights up there, take a right, then you go past Ibrox Stadium, right, and go straight through a roundabout, then take a left, so it's right, then just, and it's there, it's the motorway's there, it's a big Asda, you'll see it, a big Asda sign.
Okay.
And sometimes she can't even understand anything someone's saying.
Do you not think you should be wearing a jacket in the weather like this? The weather's terrible up here. You catch your death of cold if you've not got a jacket or a hat or something on. You've not got the right clothes on at all. Chase yourself, Dafty. Leave the lassie alone. She didn't want anything to do with you. Do you not think you should be wearing a jacket in the weather like this?
This made me identify with her more. Because while we don't understand everything that's going on within her world, she doesn't understand anything that's going on within ours. It's the fact that everything feels so alien that makes it more effective. And even if you didn't like it, or you didn't understand it, there will be images that stick with you, and there will be scenes that terrify you. I think this is a great movie. Not made for everyone, but everyone should definitely give it a shot. It's one of the more interesting films I've seen in a long time, and it's not very often you get a film like this. There are so many other issues this movie could be about. There's so many other things I could discuss, but I'll leave all that up to you, because I don't think anyone can answer every question this movie raises, and I think that's what makes it really great.